Hello, I'm Eric Holdeman, and welcome to Disaster Zone, a show about emergencies and disasters that can happen anywhere and at any time. New technology helps emergency managers identify hazards and quickly respond to disasters. Right here in the Pacific Northwest, we have the University of Washington, which has a special recon team that responds after events like hurricanes and tsunamis. The team brings in very specialized equipment to collect data. They use drones, other types of equipment, even a 3D printer. And today we're talking with Jake Daphne, who has a PhD, by the way, and he's the operations manager for the RAPID facility at the University of Washington. And welcome, Jake.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Didn't know anything about your facility. I think it was about a year ago in June of 2018. You were at a drone workshop we had.
Yeah.
Talking about and then you guys became operational later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you talk about that. But so explain, and we talked about being acronym free, and
Yeah.
science and emergency management are just full of acronyms, but explain what the Natural Hazards Engineering Research Infrastructure, which is, how do you pronounce that?
NERI.
NERI,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
It's all about how RAPID fits into that mix.
Yeah. So NERI is a network of shared use research facilities that's funded by the National Science Foundation, or NSF as they're known. I know we're doing acronym free, but so the National Science Foundation kind of birthed this idea, and they continue to support the different facilities financially. And they check in on their projects through site visits, et cetera. But it's a network of facilities that's throughout the country. So there's FIU down in Florida, there's University of Florida, UT Austin, UC Davis, there's stuff at UC San Diego, OSU, and then University of Washington.
So these other universities have the same type of capability, or?
No, so each facility within the network has kind of their own bread and butter. Most of the facilities are actually kind of traditional large-scale laboratory areas. So
Okay.
Down in Florida, there's wind tunnels for looking at hurricane force winds in a controlled environment.
Okay.
There's a shake table at San Diego for doing earthquake simulation, et cetera.
All right.
So the way that the RAPID fits in, for us, the field is our laboratory. So for all these other ones, you're going in. It's great because you can control a lot of parameters and have a control experiment. But for us, we're responding to the real live thing. So after a hurricane, tsunami, earthquake, something like that occurs, we send boots on the ground and try to collect that data. And the reason that we try to do that quickly, or the reason why the RAPID has its name RAPID, is because that data is perishable. It's going to go away. So what happens after one of these events is that there's immediately cleanup efforts. People want to get back to normal life,
right.
normal business, so that data is quickly gone. So we try to get in and look at impacts to infrastructure, impacts to the community, and try to understand that so we can improve our science and engineering moving forward. And that's the RAPID's role in the NERI network.
Okay. And what type of events have you responded to already? And where?
We go internationally, so we're not restricted to just the U.S. But we became operational September 1st, and since then we've been very busy. So we responded to a couple of hurricanes already, both Hurricane Florence and Michael, so that was North Carolina, Florida. We responded to the tsunami and earthquake in Indonesia. We've responded to an earthquake in Japan, as well as done some large-scale laboratory testing over there. We've gone down to California for the wildfires. So we've been kind of jumping all over the place, but we mainly respond to hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, and then we can do tornadoes and other wind events. We've also done rain-induced landslides down in Oregon. So there's a pretty wide purview that we can respond to.
Okay, so before you were born, probably,
Yeah.
there's a show called Have Gun Will Travel. It's Paladin, and he had a card, Have Gun Will Travel. You have specialized equipment and will travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah.
so how many members of the team are involved?
Yeah, so we have, so I was actually the only full-time employee for a long time.
Okay.
And so I was very busy. I still am very busy. We've since hired another full-time employee who assists with some of the technical side of things. We also have our program coordinator to help with a lot of the administrative type of work. And we just hired another kind of technician level person. So we're expanding quickly to try to meet the demand that's been on us. We had a feeling we were going to be busy, but we didn't know exactly how busy. Above me, though, there's a leadership team, which consists of 10 professors. And so they have a full-time job. The Rapid's part of their life, but not their whole life. But those include like the director of operations, our technical director, et cetera.
So do the professors deploy?
They have, yeah. So our director, Joe Wortman, has deployed. He actually went to Indonesia because I had to go to Florida for Hurricane Michael at the same time.
Okay.
Our director of operations has deployed. Our technical director, who's actually at OSU, Mike Olson, has also deployed. So they, when necessary, they'll go out.
So I was
and sometimes it's their projects too.
All right.
Yeah. So they want to be there.
And so I was in the Army, and I was in armored divisions.
Yeah.
And which are equipment heavy.
Yeah.
And one of the things we learned out of that, when you use equipment, then you have to maintain equipment.
Yes.
And there's a thing called the Urban Search and Rescue Task Force. So they have a stockpile of equipment. They'll send like a 60-member team, earthquakes to tunnel into collapsed buildings, do all that. But they have full-time staff trying to maintain that. So is that one of the things you do, or is that the technicians?
Yeah, that's part of my job. I mean, again, since I was the only person for a while, I did everything from marketing to coming up with our insurance.
Clean the
all these sort of
bathrooms.
things. Yeah. I hanging stuff on the walls. I was doing it all. Putting shelves up for the equipment. So I've really been there from the beginning. We built this thing from the ground up, including ordering all the equipment, et cetera. But yeah, maintenance is certainly a big part of it. When you're shipping things all around the world, they get banged up through shipping. They get banged up. A lot of times people will travel, fly with this stuff. They'll get thrown around by luggage carriers. Certain people treat equipment better than others. So sometimes it comes back in a little bit rougher shape than when you sent it. So there's all those sort of things, as well as the kind of typical instruments are never perfect, and especially when you're dealing with cutting edge technology. It's not too uncommon for technical difficulties, technical errors to happen. So we.
So would you ever just send the equipment to a site without people, or does it have to come with the people?
So we usually have. So we wouldn't just send it with nobody on the receiving end, I guess. So the different ways you can kind of interact with us or use the equipment is we can come to the site, meet you there, work with you, especially if you're not comfortable using the equipment, or if you prefer just to have somebody that's more familiar collecting the data. You can also, a lot of people fly through Seattle, and we train them and then send them on their way with the equipment. We can also ship it to the location.
Now, would the people coming through Seattle be scientists type?
Scientists, engineers, even social scientists, because we do look at the community aspect as well. But yeah, it's typically the engineering and scientific community that's coming through.
Okay. And so I mentioned in the intro just a couple types of specialized equipment. What other type of equipment do you have besides drones, a 3D printer, that type of thing?
Yeah, so we do have drones. We have a whole fleet of them, from little guys, the little Mavic Air, up to kind of our big M600, which has a LiDAR unit on it. So some of them are used for imagery, which can then be used to recreate a 3D representation of an area. The LiDAR scanner can more directly do that, can also cut through vegetation. It's not limited in the same way photography is.
And would you use the 3D printer to create that
topography
at all?
The 3D printer, we do use it for that if we want to print out a 3D model of something that we collected, because a lot of the tools we have are capable of recreating that 3D scene or basically giving us a timestamp 3D representation of that past event. So sometimes we do that to print out those models so that people can actually look at this thing in 3D and not on a computer screen. We also use the 3D printer actually to print parts that help us as well. So we have a street view similar to if you go into Google Earth and you come down to the street level and you look around at all the 3D. And now you can go in after one of these events and drive down the streets and collect data pretty much as fast as you can drive, as long as you keep it maybe under 50 miles an hour. And then you have your own street view imagery. But one of the things for that was it has a little IMU, inertial measurement unit, which helps with directionality and telling you where you are. And that needs to sit in a cup holder, so we 3D printed this thing that can sit in the cup holder and hold that in place. So we use it to kind of create different parts that we need as well.
Okay,
so
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I've told my grandsons, I think when you're my age, you will not be going to the hardware store. If you need a screw or a part or something, you'll just 3D print it at home.
Yeah,
I think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. It has a lot of versatility to it. I mean, it's nice that because we have unique cases sometimes where it isn't something we can go buy, so we have to create it ourselves.
you come for free? Is that the deal?
No.
we call and you're the federal government. You're here to help us, and I don't know. So how's that work for?
So we're supported by the National Science Foundation, and they do support a level of our operations. And we even do have some funds for us to travel and be on site and help people for free. Training that we deliver is always free. We're about to host a 4-day workshop training people up on our equipment in July. And for that, we're actually even helping pay people's airfare and things like that. Okay. So we try to subsidize as much as we can. But we do still have operational costs. We're still in operation. It's not necessarily paying for my salary in particular, but maintenance, like you talked about, calibration of the equipment, insurance, all these sort of things. So we do have to charge something. But it is a subsidized rate, so it's fairly reasonable prices for taking the equipment out or using one of the staff to come out. But there are charges associated with that.
Okay, so there's DoD reasonable rate, Department of Defense.
Yeah.
The old, I don't know, $600 hammer type thing. So if you responded to a tsunami, right? So how much was that? I mean, it could be expensive with airfare and all that, but I mean.
Yeah. It depends on the equipment you're taking. So we have some things are $5 a day, others are up to $500 a day. Okay. Staff, might cost around $500 to $700 a day. So we do have two rates too. So if it's NSF funded research, they get to take advantage of that.
So NSF is National Science Foundation.
National Science Foundation funded research. They get a little bit nicer rate because that's who supports us.
Okay.
But if it's an external user, another government agency, consulting firm, whoever, they have a little bit of a different rate because we can't subsidize those costs quite as much.
And how about a private entity?
Yeah, a private entity you can use us,
Good.
and we have worked with private entities.
Okay.
So that's a possibility as well. We have a hierarchy. We have to give priority. So if somebody from the National Science Foundation wants to use one of our LiDAR scanners, and then somebody from another government agency or private industry wants to use it at the same time, and we only have one left, we have to give it to the person from the National Science Foundation.
Okay.
So, but we've been able to balance schedules and, hey, can you use this a week later? That kind of thing, and make it work for people. So we aim to kind of accommodate everybody as much as we can.
Okay, on a scale of 1, the phone's not ringing, to 10, they're calling you 24/7, and you're just hustling, trying to meet all the demands. Where are you on that scale of busyness?
Yeah, so that fluctuates as well. In the fall, I didn't think I could take another phone call. But,
so you were a 9 or something, right?
Yeah, it was probably like a 9 there. We've gotten, especially with that additional hires, we've gotten a little bit back on top of some of those things, and so now it's probably a little more comfortable, like 5, 6, something like that. But
okay.
But we're steady. Things continue to come in. Beyond collecting the data, there's a lot of data to process. It's really easy to collect a lot of data now, especially with these tools, which is one of the great things. You can do it quickly. But now, you have this mountain of data that you've also got to do something with. So we help with processing it, getting it to a usable form, and providing that to whoever's using it, so they can use it for whatever they want to do with it.
Okay. Well, we're halfway through the show. I know that's fast.
That
it always
fast,
seems fast to me.
Yeah.
So don't go anywhere. And for you folks at home, don't you go anywhere either. But we do have a public service announcement real quick now, and we'll be back, talk more with Jake Daphne and the rapid response. And we'll talk to him about where all that data is, up in the cloud. And maybe there's some artificial intelligence part of this too. So watch this, and we'll be right back.
Disaster tips from the objects left behind.
My home wasn't insured, but you can check your insurance policy now to make sure you're covered. Oh.
My savings are lost, but you can put money aside and plan for unexpected disaster costs.
We're lost forever, but you can scan important documents now so they survive. Whoa.
For more tips on how to prepare, visit ready.gov.
Hello and welcome back. Today on Disaster Zone, we're talking to Jake Daphne from the University of Washington's Rapid Facility, and they have specialized equipment that we've talked about so far in the first half of the show. And we kind of left off with data. I thought we'd pick up more with data. And one of the things about the 21st century that we're just data rich is just what's above a terabyte? I heard that's
I don't actually.
petabyte.
Yeah,
or-
petabyte, that's
isn't
right,
it?
yeah, it's something
Petabytes
like
of
that, yeah,
information
yeah,
being generated.
Yeah.
Now, so where's that all stored?
Yeah, so we have a couple ways of dealing with it, but where we're pushing all of it is to the cloud. The cloud's kind of it's a nice safe place to back things up, but it also makes it more available to more people more quickly. So part of the Natural Hazards Engineering Research Infrastructure Network, NERI network, is a cyber infrastructure component called Design Safe. They're housed at UT Austin. So they actually are a big cloud-based repository, so data repository where you can organize things by project. You can actually make the data publishable. They have online processing tools and visualization and analysis tools, so you can do cloud-based processing as well on there. And it's free to anybody, so you can sign up, anyone can sign up for an account, and then anything that's publicly available on there, people could go download the data, look at it, use it for whatever purpose they want. So everything gets pushed there. That's part of our workflow. We also back everything up locally, though, just because we want to make sure
You don't trust them,
there's a
do
copy.
you?
I don't trust any computing device, honestly. So I never at any point have data not backed up in at least 2 places, even in the field. Every night I'm downloading all the data from all the equipment, but also leaving it locally on the equipment. And if I have time, getting it to the cloud at
Immediately
night as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And so for that cloud service that's provided, you mentioned cyber. How secure is that? That cloud system.
Yeah, it's very secure. They take the NSF, National Science Foundation, takes that very seriously, and they really kind of harp on them. I don't know Design Safe's inner workings. Honestly, I'm not there seeing what they're doing behind the scenes, but it's not an easily hackable place, I guess, if that makes sense.
All right. To finish up our little customer thing before we talk a little bit more about data I'm a former local emergency manager, worked at state emergency management, worked in the federal government for emergency management.
Yeah.
So, could a county emergency manager call you up and say, maybe the disaster is over, but I need to document the amount of damages? I know you mentioned California fires.
Yeah.
What type of work you did then there?
Yeah.
Can they request that, or a state?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've been contacted by quite a few emergency management outfits around Washington and elsewhere who have been interested in the rapid and how they can utilize some of the resources. We're not ourselves first responders. That's not our first mission in terms of kind of search and rescue type work. We are based on the science and engineering, and really we want to understand the impacts on infrastructure and see how we can improve our engineering. Right. So this is, for us, it's the best test of our engineering. We might have designed this thing for 50 mile per hour winds, but then it failed at 40 miles per hour. Why did that happen? How can we improve it? But that said, we can provide those resources and we have worked with some of the counties as well, and ODOT and that sort of thing as well. So it's our Oregon DOT, Department of Transportation.
Yes, very good.
Getting away from the acronyms.
Getting this down.
So
I think about the Oso mudslide that happened. Again, not the response, but they did come up with a mechanism to try and estimate where all the debris, the homes, and unfortunately bodies may be, and trying to map that out, and they did it digitally. Your organization would have been perfect.
It would have been great, yeah. And somebody that was heavily involved in that reconnaissance effort was actually our director, Joe Wortman.
Okay.
He was one of the lead authors on the report that was published by the Geotechnical Extreme Event Reconnaissance Group, which is another National Science Foundation funded group who collects people and organizes these recon efforts. So,
all right. Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Who decides what data is important? And labeling data is a big issue, so you can find it.
Yeah.
Who's doing that type of work?
So we try to organize the data and use a standardized format for both collection and folder structure, even that sort of thing. So anything that we collect and organize, we try to put it in a certain way so that people get used to that, and that's what they work with. That said, we don't force researchers to do, if somebody's using our facility and collecting data, we're processing it for them, and then we're giving it to them to start down the road of analyzing whatever their issue is. We're not going to tell them how to do that necessarily.
Okay.
So we do leave that sort of open to people.
And what about artificial intelligence with all this data? How does that come into the for in this?
It's starting to, actually. So I actually recently talked to a group from the Netherlands, actually, reached out, who's started an AI company there, and they were curious as to how they could help us out. And so we're sending them some data to work with them to see what they can do. And so we are actually starting down that road. It's not currently implemented, but I think I see a number of applications that could be useful, including, for example, the Street View data. Security and privacy is important. So scrubbing, faces and license plates and personal information out of those photos, that's something that could be
And
done
doing
through
that
machine
with
learning.
the machine.
Yeah, exactly. There's no reason that you need to be sitting there clicking all this stuff, and so AI machine learning can actually help significantly with that. Same with when you're doing the light detection and ranging scanning. So that's creating a 3D representation of whatever you just scanned. So it's sending a laser out that's bouncing off everything around you, and basically creating this thing called a point cloud, so a bunch of points in space. So when I do a scan, though, if I do a scan here and I do a scan over here, I need to combine those together somehow. And right now, I'm personally, actually mashing these up, and there's algorithms in place and things, but that's another spot where I could actually really.
So like you could scan a collapsed bridge, so engineers could look at where it failed.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I see some applications there. It hasn't been implemented yet, but I think we could utilize it for sure.
There's information, and then there's information silos.
Yeah. Yeah.
That exists. I mean, it's not a human natural thing to share information. Generally, sometimes information is power, influence, all those things. So, what are you doing to try and break down those silos?
Yeah, so that's one of the big missions for the Rapid, actually, is so the way some of this recon work has been traditionally done is certain groups. So, say, Eric, you have some kind of site characterization equipment, so you have seismic equipment, a seismometer that can go out and collect some data. But because you own that, you're always invited on these missions to collect the data. You're the only one interacting. It sits on your computer. Nobody ever sees it. You might write a report or a journal paper or something like that. But that's part of what the Rapid is doing, is making the equipment available to people to empower them to learn and use it and collect their own data. But then with the online repository DesignSafe, making it publicly available, it's spreading it to the community. We also do a lot of education outreach. So we hire undergrads to work for us. We host workshops. We have one coming up in July. We have a bunch of one-day ones that we do. That actually one happening in Miami in a couple of weeks. There's one down in Oregon about a week after that. So
that you guys are putting on.
We put on, or we host in tandem with one of the other research facilities. So we try to spread the word out that way. And now we're getting to a point where we're operational September 1st. So we're starting to create these data products, and we're going to start showcasing those and really showing people what you can do, what's possible. So that's kind of where you have to start, is with educating people, and then from there, as they start to use it and get empowered by that, they'll.
So do you ever go to a conference, have a booth, Rapid,
we actually
that type of thing?
We haven't done that yet, but our director actually goes to a lot of conferences. He's not necessarily setting up a booth, but he certainly goes and spreads the word, and we give talks similar to the one I gave at the drone workshop with you, kind of our 20 minutes, or whatever we can stretch, because we can talk all day. But but yeah, we do a lot of outreach that way as well, just to make people more aware of what's happening, or things like this too, the disaster zone. So.
Well, people watch this. I find a lot of people say, "Oh, emergency management, that really sounds interesting. How do I get into this and that?" So, one way kind of talk about that would be, you said in undergrads at the University of Washington come. Yeah. Are they interns, or are they paid interns, or are they? What's their classification?
Yeah, so
they get paid or no money.
Experience. So it's a chance for them. So it's a research education undergraduate is kind of their title, REU, another acronym. Mm-hmm. But they do get paid for their efforts. Okay. It's the same that kind of any graduate researcher would get paid as a research assistant or a teaching assistant.
And what type of degrees are these folks getting? I want to say kids, but everybody younger than me and anymore.
Like a kid, most of them have an engineering or science background, but we're pretty open because social science is part of what we do as well. So but right now we're working with somebody that they're working towards a geology and civil engineering degree. We've worked with people in biological sciences, other
Okay.
things too. So
All
yeah,
right.
kind of open.
Okay.
But
Well, listen, we got about a minute left, so
Okay.
kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah.
At the break, when you and I were chatting, so what do you think the future is? You're working on a $5 million 5-year grant that doesn't go forever,
Right,
and covers a lot of things.
Yeah.
So what's the future for the team?
yeah, so after 5 years, which we're about a little over 2 years away from, we have a chance to re-up for the next 5 years, and so that's where things will likely immediately go. It's a chance now that we've had a few years of operation under our belt to say, okay, what do we really need here? What kind of resources, what kind of money level do we really need to keep this operation going? And if we need to expand, we need to consider that. So that's probably the next stage. So we'll be refreshing our equipment. We're actually submitting a proposal right now to have that happen before the 5-year cycle is
Okay.
is over. We'll look at staffing. We'll look at the whole structure of our operations. Is there anything we can improve there? We do take a lot of feedback from people and are very open to that because we're new
Okay.
and we want to satisfy the community
All
the
right.
best we can. So
Well, it's just a tremendous asset to have you local
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
I mean, if we have the big disaster here, you won't
Yeah.
have to travel too far.
yeah,
And
if we can get the equipment out, that's it.
I tell emergency managers, I blog,
Yeah.
at disaster-zone.com, folks.
Yeah.
And but that for emergency managers, hey, if you don't like technology, everything's going to be about technology.
Yeah.
In the future. Everything we do will have a
Yeah.
technological component.
Yeah.
So it's great to have experts
Yeah.
able to come in and help people, not only emergency managers, but many others. So thank you for what you do. And
Yeah, absolutely.
your payment today
All right.
is this lovely coffee cup. You can put it on your
All right.
desk,
I'll
and you'll be
cherish it,
the
yeah.
envy of all those researchers.
Yeah.
They'll ask, where did you get that? And you
Yeah.
can tell them about Disaster Zone.
All right. Sounds
Right.
good.
Thank you, Jake.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
And for you folks at home, this brings us to the end of our show for today. Thanks for tuning in, learning more about what others are doing, but also what you can do to become personally prepared for disasters. And remember, if you're going to get prepared, today is a good day to start. Have a great day. Tune in again for another Disaster Zone show. Bye-bye.